Welcome back to our cozy corner, where every whisper from set lights up the timeline and every glance between co-stars becomes a tale worth telling. I'm thrilled you're here, because today we're diving into something that has everyone buzzing, refreshing feeds, and reading meaning into every like and pause. We're unpacking Mert and Demir's reaction to a request from none other than Afra Sarakoglu. Yes, that Afra, the one who can make even a casual moment look like the beginning of a story you never want to end. What did she ask? How did Mert respond? And, most deliciously, what could happen next? That's the mystery tying our episode together. Settle in, grab a cup of tea, and don't skip a second, because we're going to peel back each layer with care. Before we dive all the way in, a little housekeeping. If you love honest, cozy, and slightly mischievous deep dives into the world of Turkish stars, hit subscribe to Whispers of Turkish Stars. It's simple, it's free, and it keeps you at the front row of every reveal. Now, let's get to the heart of it. The news landed like a spark in dry summer grass. A rumor broke through the usual chatter. Afra reached out to Mert with a request, and his answer wasn't exactly straightforward. What started as a subtle interaction, barely a breadcrumb in public, ballooned into a full-on storm across social media and fan forums. It's their names together that do it. The weight of their shared history, the way they speak without speaking, the echoes of Yali Kapkini still lingering like perfume. Even though time has moved on since their most intense stretch of filming, every small connection between them feels monumental. You know how it goes by now, their on-screen energy became a watermark of Turkish drama. The chemistry they shared on Yali Kapkini wasn't just about a script or direction, it felt lived in, layered, like something that can't be replicated by simple rehearsal. So when people heard that Afra made a request of Mert, everything froze for a second. Was it work? Was it personal? Was it something playful that only they would understand? The truth was swallowed by silence, and into that silence poured 1,000 interpretations. Here's what's hovering at the center of the rumor mill. Afra extended an invitation, no one's confirmed what kind. An idea. A proposal. A spark of a project. It could be a reunion with the kind of emotional gravity that yanks everyone back into their world overnight. Imagine a limited series that leans into maturity, a film that challenges both of them beyond the codes of a weekly show, or even something deliberately intimate and modern, like a short-form digital project with the kind of aesthetic that gets shared endlessly. The possibility alone is enough to spin heads. But it is Mert's reaction that gave fans something real to chew on. From what has slipped out. Through gestures caught in interviews, through the soft diplomacy of carefully chosen words, Mert didn't say yes. He didn't say no. The door isn't closed, but it's not wide open either. It's ajar, the kind of half-open door that invites you to lean in. That very in-between has people analyzing the way he smiles when her name comes up, the way he glances down before answering, the rhythm of his breath inside the pause. Some read sincerity and consideration, like he's weighing something that matters. Others see a careful dance, a method of guarding expectations. One thing's clear, Afra's request wasn't tossed into a void. It landed right where it was aimed, at Mert's attention, and it stayed there. Let's play out the possibilities. If Afra's request was professional, the imagination runs wild. A reunion has power, nostalgia is currency, and the two of them have it in abundance. A fresh story would set the industry ablaze, with producers scrambling, fans campaigning, advertisers lining up to harness the energy they create together. Mert, who's made a name out of nuance and restraint, is a hunter for characters that stretch him. If Afra brought him something bold and unexpected genre pivot, a narrative with ethical gray zones, a world that asks more of him than the familiar, that would explain the cautious spark in his reaction. A yes that wants to be sure of itself can look very much like a maybe. Of course, there's another route, more private and delicate. What if the request wasn't a formal pitch, but a human moment? A thoughtful invitation to support a cause, a personal event, a plea for honest advice. She could have wanted his eyes on a script she's flirting with, his instinct on a scene, or his presence somewhere the public wasn't meant to see. If that's the path, then Mert's reaction fits the map of their relationship: warm, wary, real. But the magnitude of attention this tidbit created hints that it's more than a friendly check-in. There's smoke. And smoke means something ignited. Let's talk personality. because the way both of them move through chaos matters. Mert is deliberate, almost meticulous in the way he calibrates what enters his orbit. He doesn't rush into publicity storms and seems to prefer meaning over noise. Afra is light and luminous, grounded and approachable, the type who can laugh with a fan and cut through tension with sincerity, but who also navigates the industry with savvy. These currents meeting is what fuels the fascination. If Afra made a bold ask, then Mert's thoughtful pause becomes the kind of narrative that grows roots. First surprise, then contemplation. It reads like the beginning of a choice. And what happens now? That's the intoxicating question. We're standing at the edge of a possibility that could tip either way. Maybe Afra's idea is bold enough to magnetize his yes. Maybe his schedule is a fortress that can't be breached this season. Maybe both are true, and the timing needs to breathe. Meanwhile, the hope among fans is its own character, pushing the story forward, the hope that the magic that once lived between their characters can evolve into a new vocabulary, one that honors who they are today. People forget how precise timing has to be in this business. Projects don't simply appear, they bloom under the heat of interest and the force of careful planning. It's also not unheard of for carefully placed whispers to test the waters. Yes, it could be strategy, letting the scent of possibility travel ahead of an announcement. If that is what's happening, then Mert's cautious response could be part of a beautifully orchestrated rhythm, spark curiosity, stir nostalgia, and then, just before it burns out, lower the curtain and reveal the marquee. But if it's not strategy, if this moment is entirely organic, then what we're witnessing is even better, two artists negotiating a crossroad in real time. Either way, the effect on the audience is the same. The pairing of Mert and Afra remains a cultural lightning rod. A single glance of them together can reset a week's discourse. That's why even the hint of a request feels seismic. It's why the analysis of his reaction looks like a collage clips lined up side by side, timestamps, heart rates, a constellation of proof for whatever you want to believe. And because neither of them is careless with their words, their restraint becomes its own story, a canvas for speculation that doesn't end. Let's rewind for a second and imagine a tangible version of the professional path. Suppose Afra's request involves a script built on silence and subtext, something intimate and modern that lets them work at close range without repeating old notes. Think dusky interiors, glances full of weather, dialogue that sounds like thoughts. That is the kind of thing that would tempt an actor like Mert, someone who loves shaded corners. Or maybe the request is bigger, an auteur film seeking awards, or a limited series filmed in a city whose streets carry their own mythology. If the character he's being asked to play complicates what people think they know about him, the risk would be the sugar on top. His maybe would be a promise to treat the opportunity with respect. Now imagine the personal path with equal seriousness. Afra might be anchoring a project dear to her heart, something philanthropic, maybe a campaign tied to education or the arts, and she could want Mert's calm credibility beside her. Or she could simply want him present, as a friend who understands the pressure of living under a microscope. If it's that kind of request, the care in his reaction is its own gift. You don't blast an answer like that into the air, you carry it, try it on, see how it feels once all the cameras pack up and leave. But there's a third option that fans don't talk about enough, it could be both. A professional ask braided with personal trust. That would explain the way his words land, polite, measured, touched by a private warmth you can't fake. Collaborations that change the game often begin in the soft place where work and relationship make a pact. We know they've sustained a rhythm even when not on set together. We know their names still summon a wave. We know there's respect. When respect shapes opportunity, sparks become structure. There's also the context we can't ignore. The industry watches trends with hawk eyes. The reunion fantasy is alive everywhere, and Turkey is no exception. Executives understand the mathematics of longing, a duo with a proven gravitational pull is a bet with upside. So if Afra's request was buoyed by a producer's interest, Mert's reaction might read like step one of a longer dance, gently circling a flame before deciding how close to stand. And if this was not externally seated at all, if it was simply one artist reaching out to another, then the elegance of their restraint is admirable. Not everything real needs to be rushed into a headline. Still, the siren song of a new joint project is almost impossible to silence. Fans crave it not just out of nostalgia, but out of curiosity, What would they do now, older, sharper, less interested in pleasing the noise? What would their chemistry look like when steered toward new themes? Loss, reinvention, complicated loyalty? That pressure is its own character in this story. It breathes on the glass, writes messages in fog, and waits. If I had to place a careful bet, I'd say Afra's request is not casual. I'd say Mert's reaction is not evasive. I'd say he's truly considering, weighing calendars and artistic hunger against the fragility of expectation. He has always seemed like the type who refuses to promise what he can't deliver. That integrity reads as hesitation to some, but to others, especially those who pay attention, it reads as depth. There's an unspoken rule of thriving partnerships: when the foundation is respect, even a no can sound like a kind of love, and a yes becomes sacred. Whatever they decide, it will have the shape of care. If this becomes a project, it will be because it deserves them. If it remains a private moment, it will still matter, because it proves that the space between them is honest enough to hold a delicate question. Let's not forget, too, that rumor and reality often hold hands without admitting it. Sometimes a leak is a balloon sent into the sky to see how far the wind will carry it. Sometimes it's a truth that escaped its container. In both cases, the result is the same: the crowd looks up, points, and wonders if the balloon will burst into confetti or vanish into blue. Right now, it's still visible. And Mert's measured gaze is following it. So where does that leave us? With hearts slightly faster, eyes fixed forward, and a hopeful ache that only a few pairs in this industry can provoke. Mert and Afra together are something that doesn't come along often. They don't just share scenes, they share a language. It's why a simple request can send a city's worth of fans into a sprint. It's why ambiguity becomes its own intoxicant. And it's why no one's letting this moment pass without a closer look. We'll keep watching. We'll read between lines, listen to the music of their pauses, and try not to overreach while we dream. Maybe the announcement will arrive like a soft knock, maybe like a thunderclap. Maybe it will be a photo without caption. Whatever shape it takes, it will feel like something inevitable finally choosing to happen, or not happening, but leaving behind a glow anyway. That's our deep dive for today, and what a journey it was. Tell me what you think Afra asked of Mert. Do you see a collaboration in their future, or do you sense a moment meant to stay private? Would you want a sweeping romance, a quiet chamber piece, or a daring story that flips their image on its head? The comments are yours. I'll be there, reading every theory, tracing every breadcrumb you find. If this conversation kept you company, tap that like button, pass this video along to anyone who still replays their scenes, and make sure you're subscribed to Whispers of Turkish Stars so you don't miss what comes next. Thank you for staying to the final second. Until we meet again, keep your ear to the ground and your heart ready for surprises.